freedom. Today I want to talk about freedom not just as an intellectual concept, but as an embodied expression. It's not something that's out there in the distant, far-off future, but something that is right here, right now. And I want to make it clear that there are two types of freedom. These terms were first coined by Russian-British social and political theorist Sir Isaiah Berlin in 1958. Positive liberty and negative liberty. Positive liberty means freedom to pursue the goals of our heart's desire, freedom to do the things in a day that impacts our overall destiny. And sometimes this is a little bit more of the freedom that we experience in the developed world. And then there's negative liberty, freedom from external constraints. Constraints like poverty, slavery, oppression, pollution. And I'm going to bring in some expert voices on that. But first, I want to talk about the story of freedom that I know the best, my own. I left the father of my child when my son was 4 months old. I left for a lot of reasons, but I felt chained by society and trapped by my own emotions. I moved 3 times that year, once to the very top of a mountain to live in a cabin with my baby. I roamed that mountain all summer long with a rock in one hand and a stick in the other in case of bears or cougars, but I was never afraid because I knew how ferocious I could be when my freedom was threatened. One day I set out for my regular walk and I decided to hike to the peak. And as I approached that peak with the sun on my cheeks, my son sleeping on my chest, and the wind playing with my hair, I felt this feeling stirring inside of me. I felt free. And I vowed then to learn how to embody this daily. That year, I took the job of my dreams as co-executive director of Her International, a charity that works to free women and girls through the power of education. I took 300 hours of yoga and meditation training to try to understand my chattering mind and the state of my nervous system. And I spent every day non-negotiable in the woods and on mountaintops where I felt free. And something miraculous started to happen. Even though I was a single mom, often at home alone with my baby, I was finding ways to access the feeling of freedom every single day. I was finding harmony in my interpersonal relationships, especially with my son's father. And I was working not 1, but 3 jobs of my deepest desire, building a charity, building a business, and becoming a mom that I could be proud of. And about 1 year from the day I stood on that mountaintop, my co-parenting partner, my 1-year-old son, and I embarked on a trip to Nepal to visit the villages in which we work. And as I sat on dusty mud floors and traveled crazy mountain roads with this odd entourage, I knew that I didn't have it all figured out, but I knew the feeling of freedom. The thing that piqued my interest was that the women and girls that we were meeting with, they weren't free in a lot of ways. And yet, they were some of the freest souls that I have ever encountered. And this brought me back to a lot of trips I took in my 20s, to South Africa, Zimbabwe, India, El Salvador, sitting in the poorest slums, sitting in tin shanties with people that I thought I was helping. And they were helping me learn about real freedom. I learned then that our freedom is linked. And I started doing a bit of research into this to try to understand this. And I found this, the World Values Survey, the largest ever investigation into human beliefs and values, surveying over 400,000 respondents in nearly 90% of the world's population. And they asked a question about freedom because freedom is one of the top values that humans aspire to. They asked the residents of a country if what they did in their days impacted their overall destiny. And the residents of Japan was the lowest at a 5, and the residents of Mexico was the highest at an 8.2. And I thought there's no country in the world where the residents feel more free than an 8.2 because I don't know about you guys, but I'm shooting for a 10. And after this discovery, I thought, isn't that interesting? Japan is one of the most efficient, highly developed economies in the world, and their residents feel the least free. And Mexico is a country of chaos and corruption, poverty and violence, and their residents feel the most free. This backed up my inherent knowing that freedom is a choice. And it's available to everyone, regardless of circumstance. It's accessible in this moment. And today I want to talk about freedom, not just in a way of how to think your way to freedom. I want to talk about how to feel your way to freedom. Number 1, honor your darkness. You cannot have the sun without the moon or joy without the space that sorrow carves out for it. We live in this culture of good vibes only, and I get high vibrational living. I really, really do. I'm a yoga teacher. But the thing is that this is kind of killing our culture of being able to let out those wolves that are inside of us. Fear, shame, resentment, bitterness, anger. And what I have to say is that when we let those wolves out, when we honor them and let them howl at the moon, that is the only way we become less captive. Less captive. And so what I say is that you cannot find the light without the darkness. So honor your darkness. Number 2, balance thy nervous system. I want everyone in here to feel your feet on the floor. Place one hand over your heart and let your eyes flutter closed for just one moment, or even just let them come down to the floor. And then take one deep breath into that hand. Feel into your heart racing and the state of your shoulders. And as you let your eyes flutter open, I'm going to guess you have a pretty good idea of what response your nervous system is in. Sympathetic, fight or flight, or parasympathetic, rest and digest. And the thing is, we need both. We need both to move us forward. But if we stay in fight or flight, it keeps us tethered. That prepares us for this intense activity. It prepares us for the physical tiger that really in our world is no longer coming our way. It's a mental tiger, and it's everywhere. You turn on the news. You go on Facebook, and somebody's spouting off about their religious or political ideologies, and you see that mental tiger, and your body goes, fight, flight, or freeze. And you numb, and you hide, and you shove down. And that keeps us tethered. So just finding a way every day to come to that balanced place, rest and digest, where all those feel-good hormones can come out, like GABA, melatonin, serotonin. That's literally sending a river of freedom through your body, integrating that experience. And then we can go back to fight or flight. It keeps us alive. But number 3, find the treasure in the trigger. This phrase came to me right before I went home for Christmas, because there's no more trigger-friendly place than going home for Christmas. And the thing is, those mental tigers, those are triggers, and they are everywhere. They're everywhere that we don't feel seen and heard, and all a human really wants is to be seen and heard. But what I realized, and I'm the youngest of 4, my reaction used to be throw a tantrum, scream and cry, and then go drink wine. I've learned from what Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home. And those people that I felt maybe resistance to or that were triggering me, those are my biggest teachers. And that has changed everything for me. And the way I found it out was through this, the breath. Because every time I get one of those mental tigers, I take a deep breath and I change my reaction. I put a bit of space between action and reaction. And let me tell you, the breath is the vehicle upon which you will ride to freedom. And the thing is, you get 30,000 chances a day. And that's it sitting. If you're hiking or dancing, you get even more chances for freedom. And so remember that, treasure in the trigger. What's my opportunity to learn? Number 4, be confessional, not professional. My most hated phrase in the world is be professional, Tamara. Is this professional? But I ask myself, what would make me feel free? How can I go up and talk about freedom without embodying what it feels like to be free for me? I think when we go into work in the morning and we put on armor and we say we're fine and we put on our shoulds and goods, it doesn't serve anybody. We're in a world now that needs authentic leadership. When somebody asks me how I'm doing and I say, you know what, I feel blessed today, they go, ooh, that feels good. I don't want to be fine. I don't want to be good. I want to be blessed. How do I get to that state of reverence? Or if I say, you know what, I don't know how I'm doing. My son was up all night and I don't know if I can make it through today. And my people come around me and they're like, you know what, Tamara, go for a walk. Just take your time, and when you come back, we'll talk about it a little bit. And if you can't work today, you can't work today. And by the time I'm out the door, it's like I don't even need to go for the walk because I'm seen and heard because I was confessional, not professional. And number 5, once you start doing all these things and you start really living with that heart wide open, you're going to need a practice that brings you home. And I don't mean home like a physical place. I mean that place of enoughness. I mean that inherent perfection you were born with. And if nobody has said this to you yet, you are enough and you are worthy and you are getting all of the exact things you need to evolve this. And so find a way to bring that home to you. For me, it was the woods. I'd be a monster every day going into the woods and Mother Teresa coming out. And I didn't understand that until I realized I was tapping into this inherent perfection that existed around me. I breathe out what the trees and shrubs need. They breathe out what I need. Isn't that enough for me? But then I started learning about phytocides and immersing in nature as therapy, and realized that the trees, this is even more perfectly designed, the trees emit this chemical compound called phytocides. And when we breathe it in or it touches our skin, we create NK cells, natural killer cells, which boost our immune system. And when our immune system is boosted, what happens? We feel better, we eat better, we sleep better. All those feel-good hormones, that river of freedom, that comes into us. We have increased focus, less stress. And if it's not the woods for you, find out what it is. Cooking, painting, dancing, singing, snowboarding, whatever it is that brings you home, do it daily. And then I realized something, that personal liberty isn't the only goal. And the fact is that once you start filling up on your own freedom, it can spill out to others. And it's our responsibility. With freedom comes responsibility. I don't take it lightly that I am a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman standing up here talking about freedom, because I've benefited from white privilege my entire life. And I plan, when I get a chance to do something like this, to bring my sisters with me. I work with women all the time from Her International that weren't free, that were sold into bonded servitude, that are oppressed for the very nature of who they are. And I wanted today just to simply bring their faces to this stage so you could hear their voices and their own stories. And the best way I could do that was through this video. So by far my biggest act of freedom for today is to introduce you to two women who are brilliant, who literally are not freeing hundreds, but thousands of women in the region of Dang, Nepal every day. Their names are Sarita Chaudhary and Deepa Nanyu. And here they are.
Namaste. I am Sarita Chaudhary. I am 34 years old. Luckily, I could run away and I got a job as a mothers group coordinator. Now I am free and independent woman, and at the same time I am very happy to work for their underprivileged women, for their economic empowerment and independence. Thank you.
Namaste, I am Deepa Chaudhary. I am 29 years old. I was rescued, and after some time I got a job as a student coordinator where I help to educate the girls who were victim of bondage, slavery, early marriage, child labor and dropout were rampant, which are now decreasing. The guidance and support has played a crucial role for their education and self-esteem. Thank you.
Thank you.
I needed you to see that last clip specifically because they are so free in so many ways, and they can teach us and we can teach them because we are all linked. The thing is that I am not free until they are free, and they are not free until you are free. So today I gave you 30,000 chances a day to choose freedom. I hope you choose it. Thank you.